So here we are, at Genesis 32:3. We're in the annual Torah cycle this year, which is great because it aligns people and lets you know what's coming. And if you're a astute organizer, would be a little quicker to put the New Testament things up. You could know a bit more in advance what's coming. But this is we're at Genesis 32, and Jacob has been blessed. He's got his wives, he's got his concubines, he's got wealth. He's made the covenant with Laban, and he's about to come into the promised land, return to the promised land, where he still, even though 21 years have passed, he still thinks his brother wants to kill him. So he's not really looking forward to this journey back into the promised land. And he sends messengers before him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the country of Edom. And he said, thus you'll say to my lord Esau, thus says your servant Jacob, I have sojourned with Laban, stayed until now. I have donkeys, oxen, flocks, male and female servants, and I have sent to tell my lord that I may find favor in your sight. So the first thing here is that I want to talk about is it does not appear that anybody went looking for Jacob. He's been gone for 21 years. And it does not appear that anybody said, hey, guys, it's been a decade. It's been 15 years. You know, we've had 3 sabbatical years now. The crops are good. Anybody seen Jacob? Right? They don't know. Like, they never went to ask, where is he? What's he doing? There seems to be complete lack of communication. You would think that his dad would be like, huh, you know, hey, what was his, Abraham had Sarah, Rebecca. Hey, Rebecca, you seen your boy? He's nothing. So he's coming back. They haven't seen each other for 20. They don't know. Why don't they have a line of communication or anything to actually have, say, hey, how's it going? Right? How's my dad? How's my mom? Right? Telegram. Yeah, exactly. You think somebody would have sent word or something, announced the birth of a child, the annual Passover cards, and there's nothing. And so he's coming back. He doesn't know a thing. He's been completely in the dark. Oh, we got some more chitter chatter up here. Are you all watching on video? I think I better watch on YouTube later. Well, you can watch on YouTube live too, Pam. If you go to our YouTube channel and click live, this is repeating right now. So if the no mail service, no email, seems like there's some internet problems going out there in the old stratosphere. But yes, if you go to YouTube right now, we are live. If the Zoom link is not working, both things are going at once. So the next thing here, in fact, Pam, some people actually in the building have this YouTube going so that they can see the slides better. So it does actually work out. Yeah. Yeah. Terry can watch the comments. So, so Pam was emailing me this week, and she's down 72nd and Bannister, I think. So she hasn't come yet because she doesn't want to deal with the traffic or something like that. And I'm like, does that somewhere where you live, Terry? Yeah. Terry lives there. Terry lives off 87th Street. So Pam, if you came once and introduced yourself, you could catch a ride every week, right? Right. Yeah. Terry's
11:15.
She was 11:15. Right. Terry's a female, by the way. So a retired female, not a guy. So that's right. Widower. She's a widow. Widow. Mrs. Terry is the email, ma'am. Right? Okay. Yeah. 79th Terrace, she says. Now, is that Raytown or Casey Mo? It's pretty close to the same either way. Yeah. Casey. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So we have some people who come from down there. Uh, and we do give rides, but the people that we know. Okay. Just, yeah. And right. We gave rides to people we didn't know. Yeah. Yeah. That was bad. Yeah. 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 Uh, okay. All right. So the other thing here is, and this is it's just something that always sticks in my craw, whatever, is he calls Esau my Lord. That is Adonai. Okay. So this when somebody's called Adonai in the Bible or Kyrios in Greek, Adonai in Hebrew, Kyrios in Greek, you got to look at the context to see if that actually means that they're talking to the Most High, because you can use that in any area, right? And so it's not a lock if you see those words. And in fact, we're going to get to the other one that people misuse on that one here in a second. And he calls his brother my Lord. And then in verse 6, the messengers returned to Jacob saying, we came to your brother Esau, and furthermore, he's coming to meet you with 400 guys. Yeah, that would be scary, right? Abraham overthrew an army with 300. He brought an extra 100, right? So Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people who were with him and the flocks and the herds and the camels into 2 companies. So he's hedging his bets. He says, if Esau comes into the one company and attacks it, the company which is left will escape. Jacob said, oh God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, O Yahweh, who said to me, return to your country and to your relatives, and I will prosper you. I am unworthy of all the loving kindness and of all the faithfulness which you have shown your servants, for with my staff only I crossed this Jordan, and now I have become 2 companies. Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother and from the hand of Esau, for I fear him that he will come and attack me and the mothers with the children. For you said, I will surely prosper you and make your descendants as the sand of the sea, which is too great to be numbered. So he spent the night there, and then he selected from what he had with him a present for Esau. So this is a humbled man here. This is a different guy than crossed the Jordan with the staff. The guy who crossed the Jordan with the staff, Yahweh comes to him and says, I'm going to bless you. Everything's going to be good. And he wakes up and he goes, if you bless me, I'm going to worship you. Now he's coming back over. He's had 20 years of being mistreated by Laban. He's had to do, thievery and stuff to escape. And now I'm unworthy. This is a contrite heart, right? And our songs kind of go together, and it'll bring you back home. And contrite heart, he's coming back in, and he's got all the stuff. He's vulnerable. He knows he's vulnerable. He knows he's in need of protection, and he turns to Yahweh for protection. And he also it's kind of a little bit of a twinge in here. He's like, you said you were going to bless me, right? Right. Don't let this fate befall me. And so he brings together a gift. And the gift is an enormous amount of cattle. 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes. I think it's supposed to be ewe. Isn't the plural of ewes ewe? Ewan, y'all. And 20 rams, 30 milking camels and their colts, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 male donkeys. Now he's got to have a ton of people with him to manage this. He's got to have, some ATVs, he's going to have some kind of way of taking care of all of these animals. And this is the gift. So he divided his stuff into 2 companies. This is what he's giving. You figure maybe 20% of what he has, maybe 10%. I mean, he's got, him leaving was not a small undertaking. There was probably a dust cloud. And he delivered them into the hands of his servants, every drove by itself, and said to his servants, pass on before me and put a space between the droves. He commanded the one in the front, saying, when my brother Esau meets you and asks you, saying, to whom do you belong and where are you going? To whom these animals in front of you belong, you shall say, These belong to your servant Jacob. It is a present sent to Adonai Esau, my lord Esau. And behold, he is also behind us. Then he commanded also the second and the third, and all those who followed the drove, saying, After this manner you shall speak to Esau when you find him, and you shall say, Behold, your servant Jacob is also behind us, for he said, I will appease him with the present that goes before me. Then afterwards I will see his face, perhaps he'll accept me. This is pretty wise. This is pretty smart. Coming home and breaking it up into three parts so that the guy's like, well, probably increasing value. So if the guy was mad at the first one and the second one, he's probably gonna soften as he comes back. Oh, Corky says something. He must be somewhere around 80 or 90 at this time. Yeah, he's pretty old. Yeah, I think so. So the present passed on before him while he himself spent that night in the camp. He arose that same night and took his 2 wives and his 2 maids and his 11 children and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream, and he sent across whatever he had. Then Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When he saw that he had not prevailed against him, he touched the socket of his thigh. So the socket of Jacob's thigh was dislocated while he wrestled with him. Then he said, Let me go, for the dawn is breaking. But he said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. So he said, What is your name? And he said, Jacob. He said, Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with men and have prevailed. Then Jacob asked him and said, Please tell me your name. But he said, Why is it you ask my name? And he blessed him there. So Jacob named the place Peniel, for he said, I've seen God face to face, yet my life had been preserved. Now the sun rose upon him just as he crossed over Peniel, and he was limping on his thigh. Therefore, to this day, the sons of Israel do not eat the sinew of the hip, which is on the socket of the thigh, because he touched the socket of Jacob's thigh, just the sinew of the hip. So I looked up this Peniel thing. It's the same word, and it just one letter changes, but it's the same place, the same thing. And even the Jewish commentaries and English commentaries, everything, there's no reason why they switch, why it switches. It's the same exact thing. Penuel means face of God. Yeah. And so do you think when it started, he might have thought that he was wrestling with his brother? He was afraid of his brother. And now, at the end of it, he's now wounded. Now he has to go face his brother, and he's not even completely healthy. So he's even more vulnerable, more reliant on God. The socket thing. Jacob got wounded the night before meeting his brother. He may have even thought he was wrestling his brother. So it's interesting timing that he's trying to prepare himself. He's trying to be strong. He's trying to be, you're not doing this. I'm doing this. The blessing under the thigh, it takes on a new meaning. When they say that, we discussed it earlier with Abraham, says, put your hand under my thigh and bless me, right? Now that takes on a little bit more meaning because the thigh is also the socket, the thigh. They say this is, in the Jewish commentaries, they say this is the sciatic nerve. That's what they think this is. They think that Jacob ended up walking away with sciatica after this. Yeah, it goes down your leg. Yeah, it is in your back and it's down your leg. Yeah, isn't that what you were in therapy for, Terry? Yeah. So Terry's got the same blessing, right? Yeah. My own, I was picking up my pen, guys. So, my own therapist, for my shoulder, I'd done something a couple weeks ago where I had a big knot underneath my right shoulder blade, and she was leaning into it, and she hit that nerve, and my right leg went right. It actually jumped. I was like, wow. Yeah. All right. Striven with God and man, internal turmoil, growing, everything. This person, his being renamed Israel, striven with God and with man, wrestled with God and with man, is actually has a lot to do with his entire life. Because imagine if you were sent off to find your wife to the same place that your dad found a wife and it worked out perfectly. And then all of a sudden you end up stuck for 20 years working for a guy you don't like, right? You're probably, first, you have strife with that man, and you're probably asking God, why? Right. And he's got the wife he doesn't want, right? And he's probably got a lot of internal turmoil. Um, Peniel means the face of God. Penuel means facing God. Maybe. Don't see a difference. Um, Sepharia. Sepharia is where you go for the Jewish commentary, sepharia.org. And it doesn't say I've seen God and lived. It says I've seen a divine being and lived. He stumbled, and I just stumbled upon this. I know you guys are probably like, yeah, right, Chris. You're always talking about that topic, but no, I went in there looking for the thigh stuff. It went in there looking for Peniel, Penuel. That's actually what I spent the time looking for. Is why is that different? And if I don't find it in the Christian commentaries, then I go to the Jewish commentaries, because usually the Christian ones will bring it in, so it's all encompassing. And in the Jewish one says, "I have seen a divine being and lived," and it says an angelic being because the actions of angels and God can't be separated. And I think that's a very intriguing way that they think about it, that if the angel Michael, the angel Gabriel is acting on behalf of Elohim, that it's just the same way as Joseph had the authority of Pharaoh, they're applying that same philosophy to angelic beings. But now you guys talk about, because I know everybody wants to talk. Come on, come on. This, huh? Hmm. Go ahead. Talk to the, yeah, talk to the mic.
I was just saying, I think it's Yeshua. Um, I mean, it straight up says he saw God face to face. John 1:1, Yeshua was God. But the Jews just don't think that that could possibly be the explanation here, so they're doing some gymnastics, I think, mental gymnastics.
Um, Yeah, Corky says seems like this is where the nation of Israel is actual born. Yeah, that's true. Saying yes to Corky's comment, saying it seems like this is where the nation of Israel is actually born. I was reading it a little differently than saying that they're trying to get away from Yeshua. I think their perspective is away from Yeshua, and they're stumbling upon the truth, because Yeshua is also God's representative. And so if this man is wrestling with Yeshua, he's saying he's wrestling with God because he's wrestling with Yeshua, right? Who's a mediator between man and God. It also has all the properties of God. So think that I think they're so close to the truth that it's going to be easy for them to see it someday. Does that make sense? Not that they're trying to ditch it, but that they're just accidentally walking right up to the truth and not able to see it. Yeah, yeah. And it also goes along with the way she was on earth. He says, I didn't come to do my will, but the will of him who sent me. So when Shua was on earth, he was in effect God on earth, even though he prayed to God, and he wasn't, right. He wasn't really God because he has a God, but he was God because he was on earth and he had all the authority, right? Right. So it's that's that confusion part that we get to. Everett looks deep in thought. No. Um, okay. Well, I mean, I figured we'd spend time on this one. So so this is the place where his name is changed, but then they do it again. They do it again when he gets to Bethel. But this is the place where he's renamed. And so I guess we'll go to the next chapter. So Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau was coming, and 400 men with him. So he divided his children among Leah, Rachel, and the two maids. He put the maids and the children in front, Leah and her children in front, and Rachel and Joseph last. I mean, usually in families, like my kids used to argue all the time about which one is dad's favorite, right? Who's dad's favorite? Who's dad's favorite? You don't have to wonder about that in Israel's house, right? Right? There's there's no there's no actual like thought process here, right? He probably even numbered them. Okay, number one, number two, right? And then, okay, rest of you over here, right? Yeah, it depends on the day and how they're in your own kids. You don't have favorites with your own kids. Each kid has its own, his or her own personalities, and you enjoy them individually. And sometimes one looks more favored than others because you're in a mood with them or whatever. Yes, sir.
I can just see how all this family dynamics and favoritism led to what happened with Joseph later.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Uh, Oh yeah. So yeah. 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 Um women. But he himself, he put the maids and the children in front, Leah and her children next, Joseph, but he himself passed on ahead of them and bowed to the ground 7 times. Now, this is that other word that they say, it's not bow, it's worshiped. Okay. That's the actual word here is shakha, which is to prostrate, to bow down, to worship. When you switch this to Greek, it turns into obeisance, which is proskuneo. That's the word that they do to Yeshua. And everybody goes, well, you see, he's got to be God because they did proskuneo. Well, not necessarily, because you could see that Jacob is doing this to his brother. He's giving homage to his brother. So there's degrees to this word. And it's not a slam dunk if you say that somebody was proskuneoed, that means the person is standing there is actually Yahweh or Yahweh in the flesh or something, because he's doing it to his brother, who he ripped off. So, just a human being. So Esau runs up and embraces him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. He lifted his eyes and saw the women and the children and said, who are these with you? And he says, the children whom Elohim has graciously given your servant. Then the maids came near with their children, and they bowed down. They did the proskuneo. Leah likewise came near with her children, and they bowed down. And afterward, Joseph came near with Rachel, and they bowed down. So the order, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. He put them in reverse order so that he could hold the best. The net result was his brother got to meet them in the order of least to worst. And so his brother has the opposite perspective. The first person you meet is going to be the one you really remember, right? The first person that is at the corner of the table. So I thought that was an interesting thing, is that as Jacob was trying to protect in his order, his brother gets to meet in the reverse order, which he may think the opposite. He may think that the best was first, because remember, he put the gifts first. So now he may think that these are the best to offer. So likewise, he came near and they bowed down. He says, what do you mean by all this company that I've met? And he says, to find favor in sight of my Lord. Still, he's calling him Adonai. He says, Esau, I have plenty, my brother. Let what you have be your own. Okay. The amount of cattle that he gave him is immense. It's an enormous amount. So this is almost like Elon Musk giving Bill Gates a yacht. And Bill Gates going, I've already got 3 of those. Okay, this is enormous wealth. Esau is so wealthy Yahweh has blessed him so much that he is no longer bitter about his brother, and this is a reunion. So while Esau is in turmoil about coming back and seeing his brother, in his mind, he's had no news for 20 years. He's had no contact for 20 years. When you leave like that for a long time, you come back, you think everything is the way you left it, right? Isn't that how it happens? You go on vacation for a week or a month, you come back, you think you're going to find your house the same way it is. You go on a long journey, you come back, maybe they planted new trees, maybe they repainted the house, right? Things have changed. And Esau is no longer a bitter, hungry man who wants to kill his brother. He's now a wealthy man with his own family and clearly enough cattle and livestock that he's not even fazed by this enormous gift. That's not important. So Jacob said, "Oh, now, no, please, if I found favor in your sight, take my present from my hand, for I see your face as one sees the face of God, and you've received me favorably." This is where I wish we could all read Hebrew, because this is the same name as the place. Peniel, face of God. I see the face of Esau as one sees the face of God, that he is so happy to see his brother. It's as if he's in the presence of the being that he just fought with last night. It's kind of a turmoil thing. So let's double check this. Penaim, Elohim. Penaim, Penuel, face of God, same word, root word. So he says, please take the gift because Elohim has dealt graciously with me and because I have plenty. He urged him and he took it. So this is the thing, is that when rich people give each other gifts, neither one of them need anything. They take it as a sign of honor. In this case, it's almost like two heads of state giving each other gifts. So it's a very intriguing thing. He said to him, "Oh, let's take our journey and go. I will go before you." But he said to him, "My Lord knows that the children are frail and that the flocks and herds which are nursing are a care to me. If they are driven hard one day, all the flocks will drive. Please let my Lord pass on before his servant. I will proceed at my leisure, according to the pace of the cattle that are before me and according to the pace of the children." Esau said, "Well, please let me leave with you some of my people who are with me." He says, "What need is there? Let me find favor." So even though this is going well, Jacob is still scared. He doesn't want Esau's men encircling his camp. Then he has to sleep with one eye open. He has to be worried. And he says, "Okay, if we're pals, you take my gift, you go on ahead of me. I'll catch up to you. Everything will be cool." He's kind of worried. He's worried that he's going to get um, jumped. He's going to get bamboozled. And what do you think of also if giving him all that cattle is going to slow him down? Because won't he have to divide his company to drive them home? Maybe. I guess so. Um, so Jacob's journey to Sukkot. Yes, that's Sukkot, right? And built for himself a house and made booths for his livestock. Therefore, the place is named Sukkot. So when he comes back from the land of the pagans and he comes into the promised land, he is kind of keeping Sukkot just like they did in the Exodus when they lived in booths, just like we're commanded to live in booths today. His return, his triumphant return, is observed at a place called Sukkot. Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, where he came from Padan Aram, and he camped before the city. He bought a piece of land where he had pitched his tent from the hand of the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. Then he erected it there and called it El Elohe Israel. El Elohe Israel means the mighty God of Israel. Know what he doesn't say here? El Elohe Avram. El Elohe Yitzhak. He says, El Elohe Israel. He's now saying, my God is the mighty God. He switched from the God of my fathers. He's a changed man. He's saying that because Yahweh, all these things have happened. This is a pretty important sentence, that he's actually humbled. He's changed. He knows that Yahweh is his God now, and he's using his new name. And it's a double entendre because his new name becomes the name of the nation. So pretty significant. Still haven't, nothing yet? Anybody? All right, keep trucking. So Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to visit the daughters of the land. You know, guys, remember what Dinah means? Justice. Her name means justice. So all these names turn out to mean something later on. Shechem and the son of Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her and took her away and lay with her by force. This is a problem. This is a big problem. It's the opposite of what Isaac and Jacob do. Isaac and Jacob go to another land to find a wife, and they ask. They ask for the wife. They don't take the wife. Now, Jacob did smooch Rachel prematurely, but then he clawed it back and ended up working there 20 years. This guy just says, she's pretty. She's in my neighborhood. She's mine. That's horrible. Different culture. So he was deeply attracted to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and loved her and spoke tenderly to her. Yeah, I'm sure. Sure he did. Yeah, what a guy, right? Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, get me this young girl for a wife. Does this sound like a nice guy to you? Right, Dad? I've already done the deed. Go get me this gal. So Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter, but his sons were with his livestock in the field, so Jacob kept silent till they came in. Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him. The sons of Jacob came in from the field, and when they heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very angry because he had done a disgraceful thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, for such a thing ought not be done. Notice they're already calling the country Israel now, right? Hamor spoke with him and said, well, the soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him in marriage. Intermarry with us. Give your daughters to us and take our daughters for yourselves. Thus you shall live with us, and the land shall be open before you. Live and trade in it and acquire property in it. Shechem also said to her father and to her brothers, if I find favor in your sight, then I will give whatever you say to me. Ask me so much bridal payment and gift, I will give according as you say to me, but give me the girl in marriage. Israel doesn't need anything. He's so wealthy that he can't be bought. Jacob's sons answered Shechem and his father Hamor with deceit, because he had defiled Dinah, his daughter, and said, we cannot do this thing to give our sister to one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a disgrace to us. Only on this condition will we consent to you. If you become like us, and that every male of you be circumcised, then we will give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters for ourselves, and we will live with you and become one people. But if you will not listen to us to be circumcised, then we will take our daughter and go. Now the boys are referring to Dinah as their daughter, not their sister. That's a big time term of endearment. And if you will not listen to us, well, all right. Now their words seemed reasonable to Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. Let me tell you guys, okay? As a male, if somebody comes up to me and says, hey, you want something from me? This is what I want from you. No. Okay. That answer is, what? You want me to do what? What are you talking about? No, we're not doing that. What? How could you even say such a thing? Right? So the young man did not delay to do the thing because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter, and he was more respected than all the household of his father. So Hamor and his son Shechem came to the gate of the city and spoke to the men of their city, saying, these men are friendly with us. Therefore, let them live in the land and trade in it. For behold, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters in marriage and give our daughters to them. Only on this condition will the men consent to live with us, to become one people, that every male among us be circumcised. What? How did this get out of committee? Right? You don't think those guys are going to be like, does that word mean what we think that word means? Right? My wife said it's interesting they already know to circumcise themselves. I'm thinking that they don't. Oh, yeah. Oh, we are now, you do it. Yeah. Okay. All right. Um, but the next kicker is why they agree to it. The next verse. The next verse is why it's all deceit. This is 100% deceit. Will not their livestock and their property and all their animals be ours? Only let us consent with them and they will live with us. That's what's really going on. You want the young man wants the lady that he already defiled violently, but then the people want the wealth. And this is a big fat trick. That's why they do it. That's why they take matters into their own hands. And because they're looking at all that wealth going, that's nice. We'll take that. But think about today, how many cities will, here in Kansas City, there were border wars. This is why, what is that big IT company here called? Cerner. Cerner has moved back and forth between Kansas and Missouri like 3 times in the last 10 years because it'll move into Missouri, it can get a special deal, and then Kansas will give it a more special deal, and then Missouri gives it a better special deal, right? Where them and their employees don't have to pay taxes for 5 years and this and that. This is what these guys are trying to do, is to become independently wealthy based off of this livestock. So the men did it. They went out, every male was circumcised, and it came about on the 3rd day, while they were in pain, that 2 of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, each took a sword and came upon the city unawares and killed every man. Now, that doesn't mean just those 2 dudes did it, by the way. It means them and their, because they've all got men with them to take care of the cattle and whatever, and they went and they avenged their sister. I'm all right with that. You guys are all right with that? I'm all right with it. Yeah, I'm good. Whatever. This entire city was just completely united in the rape of a young lady. And it got put to the sword. Now, I think maybe today, if people read their Bibles a little bit more, we probably wouldn't have this transgender nonsense going on. We wouldn't have all this, Matt Lauers and Jeff Epsteins and Bill Clintons and, well, wait a minute, every single president. Okay. We wouldn't have this if we were a moral nation. So they killed Hamor and his son Shechem with the edge of the sword and took Dinah for Shechem's house. So they gave the girl to the guy. They went and rescued their sister from the guy who defiled her. And Jacob's sons came upon the slain and looted the city because they had defiled their city and all their sister. They took their flocks and their herds and their donkeys and that which was in the city and which was in the field. And they captured and looted all their wealth and all their little ones and their wives and all that was in their houses. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you've brought trouble on me by making me odious among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. My men being few in number, they will gather together against me and attack me, and I will be destroyed, I and my household. But they said, should our sister be treated as a harlot? So Dinah's name is Justice, and justice was served. And Jacob was making a political decision here. But what is the message that's actually sent? You don't mess with our ladies. You mess with our ladies, this is how you're going to end up. A memory. You're going to be erased. And yeah, those people were going to steal Israel's stuff. They stole a woman and they planned to steal it all. And they ended up nothing. Ended up wiped out. Sir.
I think at the end of Jacob's life, when he was giving the blessings to his children, he actually, I think he gave a curse to Simeon, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something about his bloodthirstiness.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it might be related to this incident because Jacob seems pretty unhappy about it.
Yeah. And Simeon might have enjoyed it too much. David enjoyed war too much. He had people sawn in half. Yeah. And that's why David didn't get to build the temple, because he had too much blood on his hands. Yeah. If you think of if you when we get to that, I don't know if the Torah portion is ever going to get us to it. Might as well talk about it now, right? David was a brutal, like what we're seeing happen in Syria right now, or Saddam Hussein used to do to people. David would have people drawn and quartered. He would have them sawn in half alive. He was an absolute brutal warrior of a man. And yeah. Yeah, well, even if still David is still doing it. Yeah. Sawn in half. Let's see if I can find it. No, that's New Testament. Oh, brick kiln. He had people burned alive too. I cannot find it now. So sorry. It's trying to think of the keywords of what happened, because he had people burned alive. Um, he was they were pretty brutal, man. Well, uh, um, so, who was sawn in half in the Bible? Uh, Um, There's one time David killed Goliath. Da, 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 da. What's that? Oh, the kid or me? Uh, David brought out the people who were there and put them to work with Saw's iron axe and made them work in the brick kilns. He did all the same Ammonites. Here's Samuel 12:31. Maybe I'm misremembering. Yeah. He also set them under saws. He sharp instruments, iron axes, made them pass through the brick kiln. Thus he did to all the cities of Ammon. Then David and all the people returned to Jerusalem. Yeah, yeah. He destroyed like painfully. This is kind of what they were doing back and forth to each other, because when these nations got a hold of the Israelites, they did the same thing to them. Remember what was the king that was having people flayed? I mean, pretty brutal. Yeah. Uh, So yeah, David gathered all the people, went to Rabbah, fought against it, captured it, took the crown of their king and put it on his head. Its weight was a talent of gold, and in it was a precious stone, and it was placed on David's head. And he brought out the spoil of the city in great amounts. He brought out the people who were in it, set them under saws, sharp iron instruments, iron axes, made them pass through the brick kiln. And thus he did to all the cities of the sons of Ammon. Burned these people alive in an oven. Terrible. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah, he walked, or Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. Yeah. Yeah, they walked out. So 35. God said to Jacob, arise and go to Bethel and live there and make an altar to God who appeared to you when you fled your brother Esau. This is Eastern culture. Oh, Yeah, Hebrews 11:37. Yep, that one's the same reference. Yeah. So Bethel means house of God, right? And that's where Jacob had the vision of the angels going up and down, and he set up the altar and he anointed it, and then he goes in and he's brought back to where he started. This is why our storytelling, being Westerners, and the way we learn stuff is always a straight line going from A to B. But in the Hebrew culture, the Eastern culture, you are growing in a circle and your circles get bigger. So you oftentimes end up back where you started after having a bunch of experiences and being a different person. And that's what's happening here. It's coming full circle. Um, and 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 the Bible now acknowledges the name that Jacob gave it when he left. When Jacob left, he called the place Bethel, and now God himself is telling him, go to Bethel. He's not saying go to Luz. He's saying go to Bethel. He's respecting the name that Jacob gave it. So Jacob said to his household and all who were with him, put away the foreign gods which are among you, purify yourselves and change your garments, and let us arise and go up to Bethel, and I will make an altar there to God, who answered me in the day of my distress and has been with me wherever I have gone. This is the same thing that happens when the Israelites leave Egypt. They're changing, they're putting away the idols, they're despoiling the cities. These guys just despoiled a city and they're about to go into the Holy Land, and they have to change their garments, they have to get purified. The Israelites, when they go into the Holy Land, have to get purified over 39 years, over 40 years. Then Joshua says the same thing at the end of the conquest. Put away the idols that are with you, serve Yahweh. They said, we're going to do it. So this is why I brought in 1 Corinthians 6, 8 to 11, because this is a microcosm of what's going to happen in the future. On your contrary, you yourselves wrong and defraud. Do you do this to your brethren? Or do you not know that the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived. Neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor homosexuals, nor thieves, nor their covetousness, nor drunkards, revilers, swindlers will inherit the kingdom of God. Such as were some of you, but you were washed, you were sanctified, you were justified in the name of the Lord Yeshua HaMashiach, in the spirit of our Elohim. So this is what's happening here with Israel. Who did they just kill? An entire city of deceivers and fornicators who stole a daughter and raped her, and they put them to the sword, so they're not coming into the land. And Jacob tells them that they have to put away their idols, that you can't bring that stuff with you. We're going into the Holy Land now, and this land is going to be free from idols. The lesson for us today is the same lesson I was talking about in prayer time. If you come out of Babylon and you come into this walk and you try to bring Babylon with you, you don't get to come. You might get to live the rest of your life as a mixer, but you don't get to go into the promised land as a mixer. And that's a tough lesson for some people. Even the educated people who've been in this walk for a long time want to have their Torah and their Christmas. They want to have their Torah and their bacon. And that's just, I mean, it may seem inconsequential. The food may seem inconsequential to people. It did for me for a couple of years coming into this. Like, who cares, right? But then you start reading a little bit deeper. You look in the book of Isaiah, you look at the book of Revelation, unclean food, still unclean food all the way to the end, right? The big abomination. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not even, it's pretty bad. And there's a decision that we have to make, and we are washed by the blood of Yeshua. So we've all done these things, and maybe it takes us time to get rid of these things, but we're on the right path. We're walking towards the goal. We're working towards that place. And truth be told, I think we did Christmas once or twice after we learned the truth, right? Because it's for the kids, and there's pictures of our little kids sitting on a reindeer or whatever, right? Just like that video I was showing, right? Get all misty eyed, right? And there comes a point where you have to make a decision, and it's not that hard. I mean, these are pretty easy things to spot, and we can see the net result of a society that has embraced these things because we live in it. We live in a Babylonian society where we check all of these boxes, right? They're all everywhere, and it's chaos. And the way you have to survive is whoever's in power, you have to pledge your fealty to. Whatever they decide is good, you have to follow them instead of everybody following Yahweh and living righteous, godly lives. You have to follow this chaotic lifestyle that we have. So yeah, this is the same theme that happens throughout the Old Testament. It's called syncretism. And syncretism is the blending of religions. And Yahweh does not like it. And when Christianity at first was very pure, and then as the Western bishops, the Western religious leaders started to take over, they started mixing it up. They saw no problem. Okay, well, you can't worship Apollo anymore. Okay, well, that statue is now called Peter. You can't worship, gods and goddesses anymore. Okay, they're all saints now. We'll just give them a new name, right? Oh, you can't keep December 25th is the Saturnalia, the upside down day, the lawless day, where everybody, gets to run naked in the streets and whatever. Well, we'll just call that Christmas, right? We'll just rename all this. No, we don't get to do that. I mean, you can do that. You have free will. You're free to live that way if you want, but not if you're, wanting to get into the kingdom. Because what most of Christianity doesn't realize is that there's 1,000-year period of time between us and the kingdom. Most of Christianity thinks that you die and you're judged immediately, and you go to heaven or you go to hell right away. But we know that there's going to be this period of time after Yeshua comes back, and there's going to be a resurrection, and there's going to be 1,000 years where the world is going to live under Torah. And you're not bringing idols into there. And if you don't keep the holy days, you're not going to get water. I mean, there's going to be 1,000-year period of purification, similar to the 40 years in the wilderness, where mankind's going to have a shot. And these things that we take for granted, nobody's going to be keeping Christmas in the millennium. Okay, it's not going to be a thing. We weren't commanded to observe the Messiah's birth. That's not the gospel. The fact that he was born is a miraculous birth, a miraculous conception. It's a very important thing. But that's not where the story stops. The story stops where he voluntarily died for our sins and was nailed to the cross by a bunch of Christmas-keeping pagans, right? In order to be resurrected 3 days and 3 nights later, so that the gospel could go forth from Zion. And it's kind of the reason why we're all into this stuff, is because the Bible doesn't just not sanction Christmas and Easter and Sunday. It says you don't get to make up the way you want to worship. Anybody before we go back? Today's just monologue day, huh? Okay, go ahead, Marcin.
Yeah, I think if God wanted us to keep that day, he would have said something about it, but there's no, I mean, we can infer that most people think probably he was born in the fall and not the winter, but it's, the Bible doesn't even say the season explicitly. And so, yeah, you're kind of just like trying to make up your own worship, I guess, just making things up.
Right. April? And isn't it strange that I think I said this last week, But our society will entertain anything, any notion. Hinduism, which is yoga, right? Which is self-healing with Eastern medicine, any notion, even the Islamic stuff can take hold. Anything except the Torah. They just won't do the Torah. They'll do anything but the Torah. And I think that Satan has a hand in that, because does he really care if you do the bad stuff, or is his motive more to get between you and God and get you off track? And I think that he's been quite successful getting people off track, because everything, I mean, I've been in management seminars where the net result of the management seminar is the golden rule, right? You just treat people the way you want to be treated. But they never say that. They have to say anything else, right? Right, to get there. They can't just quote the scripture and say, yeah, if you want to be a good leader, be humble, don't abuse, just follow Nehemiah, follow Moses, follow Yeshua, and you be a good leader. No. They have to come up with big words and different case studies. And look, if you treat your people well, they respond well. Yeah. Well, Nehemiah was beating up the people that wanted to bring this stuff into the kingdom, right? The Sabbath breakers. He said, "You're not doing that. I don't want to beat you up." That's right. Yeah, he had a limit. All right. Well, and that's why, and now you know why 1 Corinthians 6 is associated, because this is kind of a small part of a big Torah portion that is significant. And as they journeyed, there was a great, well, first, they gave to Jacob all the foreign gods which they had, and the rings which are in their ears. Hope Alex is watching. And, and Jacob hid them under the oak which is near Shechem. So he took them and he put them under an oak. He didn't burn them. He didn't destroy them. So that's kind of a problem, because people could go back and get them. But his people brought them with them. And that's as his people grew up in Babylon, or well, it's not Babylon, it's, wherever Hamor was or wherever Laban was. It's a type of Babylon, that the stain of that country comes with them. And some of the people are going to bring the gods with them. And it says all the foreign gods. So guess what's included? The ones that Rachel stole. Yeah, all of them. And as they journeyed, there was a great terror upon the cities around them, and they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. So they got away with slaying that city for defiling their sister. And Yahweh protected them, just like he protected the Israelites in the wilderness. In the 10 plagues, and then he was confusing people. There's a few battles where Yahweh goes before and confuses all the people, but he makes these people afraid, and they don't pursue them. Now, and they were protected even though they made enemies in the land. If I ever got cocky enough to not write this stuff down ahead of time, I'd stand up here and be like, right, right. I always have to study ahead of time. So Jacob came to Luz. Now he does call it Luz. That is Bethel, which is the land of Canaan, and all the people who were with him. He built an altar there and called the place El Bethel, God, the house of God, because there God revealed himself to him when he fled from his brother. Now Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and she was buried below Bethel under the oak. It was named Alon Bachuth. And God appeared to Jacob again when he came from Padan Aram, and he blessed him. And he said, "Your name is Jacob, but you shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel shall be your name." Thus he called him Israel. Now, sometimes in the Bible, he does call him Jacob. It's when he's messing up. When the nation is messing up, hey, Jacob, get your butt over here, right? And they're good. He's like, and it flips back to Israel, right? Because he struggles. He struggles back and forth, and the nation struggles back and forth. So God also said to him, I am God Almighty, be fruitful, multiply a nation, and a company of nations shall come from you, and kings shall come forth from you. The land which I gave to Abraham and Isaac, I will give it to you, and I will give the land to your descendants after you. God went up from him in the place where he had spoken with him. Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he had spoken with him, a pillar of stone, and he poured out a drink offering and he poured oil on it. Mashiach. So we infer that this is probably Yeshua that he's talking to. It's probably, I mean, doesn't quite say it, but putting out the oil on the stuff is kind of a big hint because that's anointing is, Mashiach. So Jacob named the place where God had spoken with him Bethel. Then they journeyed from Bethel, and when there was still some distance to go to Ephrath, Rachel began to give birth, and she suffered severe labor. While she was in severe labor, the midwife said to her, do not fear, for you now have another son. And it came about as her soul was departing, for she died, that she named him Ben-Oni, but his father called him Benjamin. Ben-Oni is son of her sorrow. Benjamin is son of the right hand. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. So Jacob set up a pillar over her grave, that is the pillar of Rachel's grave to this day. Then Israel journeyed on. Notice Jacob buries her, then Israel journeyed on. Kind of a little flipperoo there. It came about when, while Israel was dwelling in that land, that Reuben went in and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard of it, and there were 12 sons of Jacob. I mean, these guys are messed up people. Paul has a thing about this where he's chiding the Gentiles, and he says, there's a man among you who has his father's wife, a thing in which the Gentiles don't even do. This is really, really bad right here. The sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun. Sons of Rachel, Joseph, and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's maid, Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Zilpah, Leah's maid, Gad and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Padan Aram. Jacob came to his father Isaac at Mamre at Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abram and Isaac had sojourned. The days of Isaac were 180 years. Isaac breathed his last and died and was gathered to his people, man of ripe age, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. So we have kind of the reunion before he dies, just like what happens with Jacob himself. As the guys go off to Egypt, they're going back and forth, and Jacob, Israel actually gets to go and be reunited with Joseph before he passes away. Anybody have a comment on that? It's really not earth-shattering stuff. These are the generations of Esau, that is Edom. It's interesting that he gets this honor, that he gets the honor of having his generations recorded in the Bible, because Edom is not liked. They're not positive people. Esau took wives from the daughters of Canaan, Adah, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, Aholabama, the daughter of Anah, the granddaughter of Zibeon the Hivite, also Basemath, Ishmael's daughter, sister of Neb. The one I want to talk about here is Reuel. Reuel is the same name as Moses' father-in-law. It's not the same guy, right? Obviously, hundreds of years apart. But Reuel means friend of God, which is also a name that Abraham had. Abraham was known as a friend of God. So that Reuel comes into play later when Moses has to listen to his father-in-law, and he has this name, which is kind of apropos, kind of prophetic. Anybody feel like me listening to me read the genealogy? Okay. Good. Obadiah 1. Because there's no Obadiah 2. Thus says Obadiah, the vision of Obadiah, thus says Yahweh Elohim concerning Edom, We have heard a report from Yahweh, and an envoy has been sent among the nations, saying, Arise and let us go up for battle. Behold, I will make you small among the nations. You are greatly despised. The arrogance of your heart has deceived you. You who live in the clefts of the rock, in the loftiness of your dwelling place, who say in your heart, Who will bring me back down to earth? Doesn't this sound like the end of days, where the people are going to hide in the rocks and try to hide from Yahweh and from the tribulation? Though you build high like the eagle, and though you set your nest among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares Yahweh. If thieves come to you, if robbers by night, oh, how you will be ruined. Would they not steal only until they had enough? If grape gatherers came to you, would they not leave some gleanings? No, they're probably not going to do that. Oh, Esau will be ransacked, and his hidden treasures searched out. All the men allied with you will send you forth to the border, and the men at peace with you will deceive you and overpower you. They who eat your bread will set an ambush for you. Golly, who did that? Judas. Judas ate bread with Yeshua and set him in ambush, like hated like an Edomite. Will I not on that day, declares Yahweh, destroy wise men from Edom and understanding from the mouth of Esau? Then your mighty men will be dismayed, O Teman, so that everyone may be cut off from the mountain of Esau by slaughter. Edom's violence against Jacob. Because of the violence of your brother Jacob, you will be covered with shame and you will be cut off forever. On the day that you stood aloof, on the day that strangers carried off his wealth and foreigners entered the gate and cast lots for Jerusalem, you too were as one of them. Remember, when Jerusalem comes down, Edom doesn't go and help. They watch it happen and they get ruined because of it. Do not gloat over your brother's day, the day of his misfortune, and do not rejoice over the sons of Judah in the day of their destruction. Yes, do not boast in the day of their distress. Do not enter the gate of my people in the day of their disaster. Yes, you do not gloat over their calamity in the day of their disaster, and do not loot the wealth over the day of their disaster. So he's not only is he telling them they're not going to help, they don't get to partake of this stuff when it does come down. And do not stand at the fork of the road to cut down their fugitives, meaning the people who are trying to flee, right? They would cut them down, and do not imprison their survivors in the day of their distress. For the day of Yahweh draws near on all the nations. As you have done, it will be done to you. Your dealings will return on your own head. Yikes. Judgment day is coming. Because just as you drank on my holy mountain, all the nations will drink continually. They will drink and swallow and become as if they never existed. But on Mount Zion there will be those who escape, and it will be holy, and the house of Jacob will possess their possessions. Is there going to be any idolatry there in Mount Zion? Nope. None of that stuff. Then the house of Jacob will be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, but the house of Esau will be as stubble. And they will set them on fire and consume them, so that there will be no survivor of the house of Esau, for Yahweh has spoken. Then those of the Negev will possess the mountain of Esau, and those of the Shephelah, the Philistine plain, also the territory of Ephraim and the territory of Samaria and Benjamin will possess Gilead. And the exiles of his hosts and the sons of Israel who are among the Canaanites as far as Zarephath, and the exiles of Jerusalem who are in Sepharad will possess the cities of the Negev. The deliverers will ascend Mount Zion to judge the mountain of Esau, and the kingdom will be Yahweh's. A little apocalyptic stuff to close it out today. I didn't actually make a note. I made no note on that. I figured it explained itself.